Due to what? Due to lack of money. I mean, try. Yeah, but yeah. So I'm leading the e-commerce experience team, which is responsible for all those products that you see there. We have Sokoetu, Sokolon, that is for like, so at Trigger we connect farmers to the market, and also we help shops um, get access to their products easily. So we have products like Sokolon, which is to provide loans to the vendors who are out there. So we sell them stuff on loan, and then they can repay. We have Sokolytics, which is just for analytics. We have agents, which are just for agents who help customers buy stuff. Yeah, so those are the products that I work with on a daily basis. Then I also have a startup where I'm the co-founder, CEO, CTO, CEO, Chief Operating Officer, CFO, Head of HR, Senior Software Engineer, Front-end Engineer. Yeah, DevOps Engineer. Yeah, so Africanist. Yeah, so that is one of the startups that I'm working by myself, which is mostly focused on property management and like digitalizing the whole property management experience in Africa. So when you find time to come to PyCon Kenya, you will know why we need very good digital property management solutions, especially when you see the scale at which people in Kenya are building. Then I'm also the organizer of API Festival, which is an event that we usually have in Nairobi focused on Matters API and also PyCon Kenya. I have 6 years of experience so far in the industry. I also so the focus of this talk is not going to be technical at all. It's just going to be around how do you navigate your way in tech. So I started my career while still in school. I was in first year when I got my first job with no prior experience in software engineering. So I understand the struggle that people have to go through to figure out stuff. So this is the title of my talk, From Code to Career, Navigating Your Path in Tech. So the focus is just going to be mostly around things that you can do, and also like the lessons that I've learned, also things that I've seen over the time I've worked with quite a number of engineers, things that I've seen from their work or from their career that you can pick. So the first thing that I'll say is you need to first understand the tech landscape. So you need to even start by researching about the various roles. The font is it's quite big there. So you need to first research about the various roles in tech. So before you even start thinking that and I need to even start learning, you need to understand what exactly will you be learning towards. So I've seen quite a number of people take even 3 years to figure out what exactly they even want to do. So you can reduce that time to even 2 or 3 months. But it's a matter of, you find somebody is maybe doing backend today, is doing front end today, and that is mostly because you didn't research on what exactly you wanted to build on earlier on. So like for instance, we have a backend, we have a product manager, front-end developer, data scientist, DevOps, product design. So for me, based on who is paying me or how much you pay me, can do any of those. Yeah, but yeah, that is. Then the other thing is research the responsibilities of the various roles. So for instance, if you want to be a backend engineer, you need to understand what does it take to be a backend engineer? What am I going to be involved with? What are the languages that I'm going to interact with? So that we're going to talk in our presentation about job hunting somewhere. So that now when you are at a place where you want to look for a position within the industry, you actually even know how to structure your CV, you know how to structure your cover letters. So we're going to discuss about that later on. Then also look at how like an event like this, if you find somebody from Google, try to understand what he does at Google. If you find somebody, let's say from Canonical, somebody from Africa's Talking, try to understand what they do, and also at the same time, even other companies, even smaller startups. So I can, for instance, tell you like because I've been there since the time Trigger was a startup. Right now we are being told that we're no longer a startup. So I can tell you like the experience back then and the experience now. so that you know in case you're working for a startup, what are you expected of? Like for instance, I can tell you for sure that if you work in a startup, there's a high chance that you're going to be a backend engineer, but at the same time you might be asked, can you do a little bit of mobile here and there? And that has happened before. So you need to understand all those roles. Then also you need to more look at the in-demand skills and technologies. I think at the moment, what is really selling is, if you go, for instance, if let's say you're trying to learn front-end, it's worth learning React, and it's also worth learning maybe Next.js, because it's the big thing at the moment. So that is where most people are hiring in. If you're doing Python, Fast API, you look at things like microservices. So those are things that at the moment that the trends that we have in the industry. So not even like really mastering them, but more of just having that information that if you have a product or if you have a backend, you can split it into different microservices, and then those services can communicate to each other through RPC maybe, or they can just make HTTP calls. So just that information itself, somebody in an interview is probably going to ask you, have you ever heard about microservices? And that will basically decide the tone of the rest of the interview. Then also emerging trends. So look at things like, for instance, at the moment, AI. I personally, I'm not a fan of AI, but the industry is trending towards AI. So you have to position yourself towards what the industry wants, or you'll just be replaced. So if you look at things like, there was a talk on blockchain, there are companies like Polkadot. I think you can check out Polkadot. They are doing amazing stuff in the blockchain ecosystem. They have Polkadot Academy, where they sponsor you for 1 month to go to Singapore. I think the next one is probably in the US, to learn about blockchain, so you can check out such stuff. Yes. So after you build, after you understand like what exactly tech is all about, then now you need to build a strong technical foundation. So you need to first master the foundational concepts. So things like algorithms and data structures. If somebody was to, there's an interview that I went sometimes back, and it lasted almost 2 hours, 30 minutes, and it was about writing a nested for loop, like a for loop that is nested 3 times. So I was having this interview with it was I think a senior engineer from Backbase back then. And he told me, write a loop that does this, and this. And I was very excited. I was like, that is very easy. So till the guy now started going into it, and he's like, what is the time complexity of your function? What is the space complexity? You now start breaking it down. How can you improve it? How can you apply recursion here? So those are the foundational things that really help you even as your career progresses, because then it makes it easier for you to break down problems and solve them. So other things are like object-oriented programming, learning about databases. So we have NoSQL databases, MySQL, NoSQL databases, SQL databases. So learning about all that, and like things such as what is it called? SQL injection. So those are some of the things. If, for instance, you are to go to a backend interview, somebody can ask you, what is SQL injection? Which is basically one way that hackers usually penetrate easily into, they have done that even to the FBI. So yeah, that happens. Then, so then one thing that I usually emphasize a lot is that you build a strong foundation in one language, and then you use your experience in that language to learn other programming languages. So I found, I was conducting an interview sometimes back, and I had like, this guy was really good in JavaScript, really good in Go, not like good, but yeah, he knows JavaScript, he knows Go, he knows Rust, he knows Python. But then for us, we were looking for a Python developer back then, and we wanted somebody who's extremely good at Python. So you find that whenever you don't become extremely good at one language and then you use that experience to learn other languages, it's very easier to become, you know everything, but you are a master of none. So if you go to an interview, you're going to be faced out by somebody who's a master of that one thing. So always remember that. So build very strong foundation foundational skills in one language before then following the bars or like starting to learn Rust, which is what I'm doing now because why not? Then peer pressure. Then another thing is also build applications as you learn. And as you build applications, ensure like you go above and beyond. So especially for those, I've interacted with quite a number of folks here, students. When let's say you apply for an internship somewhere, somebody is more likely to use the projects that you have in your CV to judge who you are. So for instance, if I go to your README, and from your README I can understand how I can clone your project, how I can set up your project, I can understand if it's, let's say, a back-end application, the endpoints that I can visit, the technologies that you've used. Maybe you've also shared some notes about the challenges that you faced. I can easily understand that one, you are a good communicator, you document stuff well, then probably also you take in feedback, even from the structure of your README project. So simple things such as that. Then also we have things such as writing tests, of course, those things. So especially if you're doing those portfolio projects, just ensure that you go above and beyond. Then keep up with industry trends. So I wanted to show how, so we have a lot of ways that you can keep up with things that are happening currently in the industry. So who knows daily.dev? Daily.dev, anybody? Yeah, so you can look at, for instance, daily.dev is just an extension that personalizes your Google Chrome homepage. So whenever you go to Chrome on your laptop, maybe let's say there was a vulnerability to the Arc browser yesterday, you will understand why not configuring Firebase rules with a lot of care can cause you problems. So you can look at extensions like daily.dev, you can look at Hacker News. There are also sites like Medium. You have a lot of trends. Okay, just a moment. Yeah, so then also, of course, the other thing is attend conferences, webinars and workshops. So conferences like this is where you get to connect to people. And if you go to a conference, especially if you paid for a conference, don't keep quiet. Don't keep it to yourself. Interact with people. Get to know what. I think there's somebody we've been debugging. It's called. I've met him yesterday, but right now we are debugging is React Native application. So that is a very good. That is one of the things I think that you should do in conferences. Meet people, learn about their experiences, learn about what they do, learn about why they do it, and also, of course, get to share who you are as a person. So whenever, let's say if I come to a conference like this, and then maybe next, I know somebody is hiring, or we are hiring, then I'm more likely to just push in a recommendation because now we have that personal relationship already. Yeah, so just ensure that you attend workshops. Sorry, I copied the slide, so just in some points that were from the previous one. Then learn by doing. So build projects, especially again for folks that are starting out. So build projects that can help showcase your expertise. So if let's say you're doing Python, for instance, you came to this conference and you're very interested in exploring Python further. So when you go home, try and see within the Python ecosystem, what do I want to venture into? So for instance, if let's say you want to do maybe backend development with Python, we have Django, we have Fast API, we have Flask. Those are some of the technologies that you can use. So whenever you build maybe a project in that, as I said, go above and beyond. So if you're building an API with Fast API, go and write tests, ensure that your Python code contains doc strings. Those are some of the things that people actually never know that, especially for experienced folks, they look at those small things like, are your functions documented? If I just look at your function without even interacting with it, can I be able to understand what it does from the documentation that you provided? So small things such as those, especially in your personal projects, just ensure that you do them. And I think importantly, things such as documentation, if you're doing websites, ensure that your website is responsive and users don't have to scroll on a small iPhone to try and access the hamburger menu. Yeah, so then so then I think also create a personal website. If I was on my laptop, I could have shown you my blog from like 6 years ago when I was also starting out. I was documenting my experience. Like for instance, there's a day that I wrote tests and I was very excited about it. So I wrote about it an article, and I go back and I appreciate whoever advised me to do that, because then you can be able to see your growth over time later on. Then you can contribute to open source projects. I think one thing that I can tell you for sure is that sometimes, especially the community on Stack Overflow, if you go there and you ask a question, you might be welcomed in a very nice way that teaches you how people out there sometimes can be so ensure that you contribute to open source projects. So when you're doing especially open source work, answering questions on Stack Overflow, never take anything, we say in Kenya, kind of feelings, like don't take it too personal. So if somebody comes, maybe, let's say, trying to rectify you in a very harsh way, try and see what are the positives that you can pick. It's somebody that you've just met on the internet. You don't know him, he doesn't know you, so there's no need at all for you to start getting worried of what he thinks about you. So just pick up the positives that you can pick, work on that, and improve. Then, of course, the other one is you need to demonstrate problem-solving skills in your projects. So document the development process. That is important. I wanted to share with you a challenge of one of the guys that I hired last month, but I don't know whether he shared it with me. So I think I'll share it after the talk, and then you can look at how it was like the technical challenge for a senior backend role. But you can look at how you went about it, and you can learn a lot, like how he documented the whole project, what it's about. Then you went ahead and say that I took this decision. I decided maybe to use Apache Kafka because of this and this. I didn't maybe use Redis here because this was the. So when you document your project and also the thought process, it helps people understand how do you make decisions, how do you break down processes. Like to give you an example, if let's say you're building a very simple blogging application, then you decide, because these blogs don't change much, you decide to cache maybe some metadata about that blog so that it can load faster on the homepage before then somebody goes to explore that blog. So if you document something like that, then somebody is going to see how you approach such scenarios. Yes. Then of course, I've talked about explaining the challenges that you faced and the solutions. So like for instance, why did you decide that this is not going to be a microservice and it's going to be a monolith? So you can give an example. Somebody can give you a challenge, you can do it, and then you can be like, I thought that this is the challenge, but I went an extra mile because I thought this will be the best result. So you still provide whatever that you asked for. Maybe let's say if it's an interview, and then you're like, I thought this will be better, so this is the extra meat that I added to the challenge. That is always welcomed. Then networking and mentorship. So ensure that, I think this is one thing that is very important. I can tell you for sure, from like my experience in the last like 2 years, last month I was helping a friend in the US hire developers, and most people usually post jobs for HR protocol. I'm not even going to lie about it. Most people post jobs because an auditor is going to come and is going to be like, you advertised this job, so how come, okay, like this person was hired, why is the advert for this job? Then the HR guys will be in trouble for the same. But in the end, most people are usually referred to positions. So most of my friends that you work with, you'll find that I've either referred them to positions or they have referred me. So the value of your career sometimes is in the network that you create. So your network is your net worth. There's something like that. So ensure that when you go to events, be aggressive. Just don't keep it to yourself. Don't be try to get. It can be very tempting to be introverted, but try to get out of that shell and at least network with people. Make sure that people know what you do. I think, for instance, I've known that this guy is a very good PHP developer. They're also trying to learn. He's learning React Native. So whenever somebody is like, I'm looking for to hire somebody in Kampala, I can maybe recommend him so that he can recommend other people. So when you go to these events, just ensure that you speak to people. Then, of course, make meaningful connections. Whenever you come out of here, if there's somebody that you're interested, maybe to keep the connection going with, you can ask for his LinkedIn, ask for his number, but remember, of course, to keep it professional. That is very important. Then there are quite a number of forums out there. For those ones who are students, Kai can tell you about GitHub Student Expert, where you can get 6 months of educative for free, where you just learn stuff. You get a lot of free licenses to a lot of stuff, like front-end masters if you're trying to learn front-end. So there are quite a number of communities out there that are actually like centered towards helping, especially students and like very young folks who are trying to create a career in tech, trying to basically help them grow a career within tech. So ensure that you look at some of those mentorship programs. I think GDG has, is it Women Tech Makers? I don't know. There's one in GDG I've forgotten about. There's also Microsoft Student Partners, GitHub Campus Experts. There are also other communities by other companies. I think there's one that I know at the moment where they take ladies and then they give you an internship in those big Silicon Valley companies. Like you go there for like 6 months, so you get to like visit Stanford, then you get to work with Adobe, GoDaddy, Google, Microsoft. So 1 week, one week. So imagine the value that you get from just those 6 months that you're going to be there. It's going to be very monumental. So ensure that you network and also you look at some of these mentorship communities that are out there. They can really help. There's also another one, ADP List. I don't know that it's in Kampala, but I've seen them do some very good work in Nairobi. So yeah, so ensure that you network and also, of course, look for people that can be potential mentors for you. Then I think this is one of the things that I usually spend a lot of time, even even with some of the mentees that I usually work with, are about job application. So being good in tech is one thing, and then applying for a job is another thing. Like I usually tell people that applying for a job in tech is a skill that you master and you learn over a period of time. Like not a very long time, but it's more of you get to learn a lot. Whenever, like for instance, I can tell you right now, I have no plans to quit at my current job, but I'm still applying for roles. And each time I get to apply and learn. So, and I still get rejections, and I'm like, so what? Why did I not move to the next step? And somebody is going to tell me, oh, we felt that you're not a good culture fit because of A, B, C, and D. You need to improve maybe on your problem-solving skills. This is where you went wrong. You need to maybe look into your knowledge and your expertise in system design, things like those. And then over time, you get extremely good at interviewing to an extent that sometimes when you go to an interview, you already know what to expect. So yes, so interviewing is kind of a skill that you acquire. So whenever you go to an interview and you get negative feedback, by negative I mean that you've not moved to the next step. Yeah. So if you get negative feedback, take it positively and professionally, but also at the same time, try to ask for more feedback. Where did I go wrong? What can I improve on? Most of the interviewers are usually really good people. They'll give you all the pointers, they give you all the, even if it's Microsoft. If you apply for a senior Microsoft position, you manage to make it to the interview, but you don't make it to the next step. The most important thing for you from there will be the feedback that you get. And then ensure that you have a plan for that feedback. So if somebody tells you that, I felt like you weren't really strong in system design, so you need to go back to the drawing board and look at, for instance, who do I know that is really good in system design that can mentor me or that can give me resources or something like that. Then another thing now from there is develop a plan. So there are sites. Who knows about roadmap.sh? Anybody? Yeah, so if you go to roadmap.sh, you will see like they have plans. Is it plans? Paths. Yeah, they have paths for the various careers in tech. Like for instance, if let's say you're trying to be a front-end engineer, they'll tell you where you can start. So they show you the whole roadmap of most of the things that you have to gather. So you can look at resources like those ones to even improve things that you're lagging behind a little bit. Then even, so when you're applying for jobs, I usually review quite a number of applications sometimes, especially when folks that I work with are hiring. So you find that somebody shares, he has like this one resume that he uses to apply for jobs. So ensure that you personalize that experience. So if let's say you're applying for a job, maybe as a backend developer at Trigger Foods, we are most likely to have you interested in Python. We also do some Golang. So we're going to look at whether you have those skills. Of course, then we're also going to look at what else. We don't have a DevOps team. We believe that every engineering team should manage their own products. So we're going to look now at your extra skills in the CV that you shared with us. Like, do you have some basics, maybe DevOps skills here and there? And then if you give you the best resources, of course, you can learn. So ensure that you highlight the experiences and the skills that you have in the applications that you make out there. Then, of course, showcase your achievements, especially with metrics. So for instance, if let's say I'm applying for a role somewhere, I'll say that I worked at Trigger, then in my CV, I'll say that we serve 100,000 customers daily. We have like our APIs hit, I don't know, like I don't have an exact number. Maybe, I'll just guess 3 million times a day. That is maybe how much our API is being hit by our customers. So basically supporting the business to ensure that this whole suite of services that we have are running was my role. And once I share with people the numbers, then they are able to see the scale at which the work that you've done has really impacted the organizations that you work with and their customers out there. So it's always important to share those metrics, especially if you have them. If you don't have them, just don't. You cannot share them. Yes. So I think I have like 5 minutes remaining. Then I think we've talked about, so prepare for behavioral and technical interviews. So behavioral interviews are questions like, somebody asks you, tell me about yourself. There are some people who can't answer that question. You'll be shocked. So somebody will just tell you his name. You'll be like, my name is Kelvin. Yeah, that's about myself. So get to learn about Allah. Hey, you are doing with trains, man. Just a moment. Yeah, so as I said, when you're interviewing at a place, as you personalize it, get to learn about what they do. So if let's say you're applying to where I work, come and ask me questions around how many customers do you serve in a day. That just shows that you went and did your homework and you actually move into you're very interested in getting to work for this company. So if you're trying, I don't know any Ugandan companies, let me not try. So yes, of course, we've talked about rejections, and also after interviews, always send that note to just thank the interviewer for sparing their time to speak for you, to help you get a job. Yes. Then soft skills and professionalism. So whenever you go to any work setting, ensure that, not ensure that, start building or like working and learning on how you get to work in a professional setting. So ensure that you are professional. I think if somebody, mtu akikutusi, don't, oh, sorry, I'm so used to Swahili. If somebody abuses you, don't, don't punch him. There are like protocols around the same that you can follow. So things like those. Then of course, in terms of giving feedback, there's this thing when we were at Andela that was called ask principle. So you give somebody actionable, specific, and kind feedback. So if let's say you are reviewing somebody's PR, and then you realize that maybe this person is not even doing, I've been giving him this feedback over and over again, you still have no merit to be rude about it. So you can be like, maybe I think we've discussed about this over and over again. You need to look, this is what you can do. You can improve this function like this. So if you give feedback that is actionable, then somebody will not bother you with a lot of questions. If you give feedback that's specific, the same thing, and also kind, somebody will more see that you are not trying to attack him. So we'll definitely action that feedback. Then, of course, different cultures and team dynamics. I can tell you, I've worked with people from Ukraine, they're different. You work with guys from the US, you realize that they're a bit chilled. They can laugh with you and they're firing you tomorrow, and they know that. So if you work from people from Netherlands, for instance, they're usually on time. So, and if you miss by 1 minute, it becomes a problem for them. Even if you've never, I think it's something with the Dutch. Even if you've never been late before, and then you get late to a meeting by like 2 minutes, there'll be a lecture, a 1 minute lecture there about you need to keep time, blah blah. But at the same time, it's just that within their culture, they're used to being very open. Because other people will be like, oh, it's okay. But for them, if something bothers them, I think this is something that one of the guys that I work with there told me that they're used to being very open and just telling you up front. Whether you take it or not, it's not their problem. So be used to, whenever you start working with new people, try and understand their culture and how they operate, and then try and see how can you work with them harmoniously. Yeah. And of course, feedback, be very receptive to feedback. Don't take things too personal. If you're at work, just, if somebody gives you negative feedback, just try and see what positive you can get out of it. If I was here, I could have shown you, there's a PR that I did 6 years ago, it had like 60 comments, yeah, from like other team members. So 60 comments is a lot of comments, trust me. Yes. Then what the final, is it the final? Oh, it's not the final. So navigating early career opportunities. One of the things that a lot of people suffer with is imposter syndrome. So imposter syndrome, who knows what imposter syndrome is? Anybody? Imposter syndrome? Oh, nice. Yes, so to just give it in a nutshell, there's a time that you will, maybe you'll start working somewhere, and then you'll start seeing how other people are more talented than you, and you'll start questioning your existence and purpose in this life. Yes, that happens more often than you think. It's also something that I went through. It's something that a lot of people go through, but how you come out of it is what really matters. So whenever you are undergoing imposter syndrome, the first thing is you need to recognize like that feeling, and then you need to look for ways to build for confidence and self-assurance. So that can be just appreciating small wins. If let's say maybe today you worked on a certain feature that was really complex, just ensure that you celebrate the small wins and victories that you have. Then of course also get to interact with people to learn and share your problem out there. I can tell you there's an intern in my team who pushed something. I gave him environment variables to production to change something. Then he forgot, and they edited the prices of products on production. So you can imagine what he went through that week. Yeah, so and he really struggled, but we found a way around it, and basically just that feeling of, especially if you hit roadblocks, you're going to start having that feeling. So just ensure that you build confidence and know that it's okay sometimes to make mistakes. The most important thing is how do you get out of that mistake that you made, and also importantly know that everybody always has a journey in tech. So if let's say you start working with somebody very senior, works at Amazon, and then you kind of start feeling you're not doing enough. If you tell this person to tell you his journey, somewhere it will interlope with where you are. So just ensure that you appreciate that everybody goes through that learning journey, and that is what you're going through. So you don't have to give yourself a lot of pressure. So learn to manage stress, take some breaks to recharge, take some time off, don't be like me. So take some time off. Also manage your workload effectively. Know how to not overpromise. So whenever you're working and then your boss approaches you, is like, there's this thing that we need to be done in like, I don't know, 10 months, 10 weeks or something, 10 days. If you know that is not the realistic timeline, then you don't have to promise that. So manage your workload and also expectations effectively. Then seek feedback. I think we've talked about that. Then important is balance work and personal life. So set clear boundaries. Like for instance, if during the weekend you decide that it's going to be family time, you're not going to be working, just make your coworkers, if they know that you'll be available, they reach out to you and tell you that for a fact. If somebody knows that I can Slack them on Friday 10 p.m. and he replies, he's going to Slack me. I've seen that happen. So just set those boundaries so that you also have some time for yourself, some time just to ensure that you are in good health, and also whenever you take like some breaks, you're going to come back more stronger and energized. So the last slide, yeah, that is the last one. So take on leadership roles and responsibilities. I can tell you for a fact, leadership doesn't have to start with you being promoted. So whenever, let's say you are in a team, even at the moment, like for instance today, as I was heading to these events, it's one of my interns who actually ran the stand-up that I'm supposed to run in my team. So that is just giving them an opportunity for them to also take on some sort of leadership and responsibility within the team. And they do that sometimes even within a weekly basis, where you get to learn how to understand what everybody is doing. You get to know how to speak to other people within a professional setting. Also, maybe if it's, let's say, sprint planning, you get to know how do I plan a sprint, how do I ensure that whenever I write stories, we can talk about that later, but whenever like I do stories for other developers to work in, so a story is just, think of it, let's say if you're trying to build an application and somebody is supposed to sign up, a story is something like as a user, I should be able to sign up. So if you're doing that within that story, you need to have an acceptance criteria. What marks this story as completed? A user should be able to provide his password, username, email. So getting to experience developing those stories or even assigning them to people can give that sort of responsibility to you that then over time, if you do it for like 2 years, you will grow, I can tell you for that. Then volunteer for challenging products. One of the products that we're currently working on is integrating with the Kenyan version of Uganda Revenue Authority. I can tell you working with governments, it's not for the weak. So volunteer for, I think there's somebody who said about going to MTN offices and sitting there, they chase you at the end of the week. Government is worse. They will not even be there. They'll go. There's a day that we went to KRA, which is Kenya Revenue Authority, and then they had gone to Kisumu and they were expecting us. They had like gone 8 hours away from Nairobi. So we wasted the day, waited for them, and we were told that it was at 2 p.m. The commissioner is in Kisumu for a meeting. So come another time. So it's very challenging, but whenever you get to work through those experiences, then if you get maybe another opportunity, you will know how you set your expectations. Like for instance, you will know, don't rely, if let's say you're working with the government, don't rely on them to be as effective, especially in giving you feedback. So you'll know how to hunt down feedback, you'll know how to collect feature requirements and things like those. Yeah. Then mentorship. So especially if you are a senior engineer here or a mid-level, just ensure that you give those people under you a very good space to thrive, a very safe space for them to thrive and grow their careers. Then importantly, build a personal, that is supposed to be personal, build a personal brand. So I think we've talked about articles, so feel free to write about what you do. There's a time that you are told to write about each other in our team, and it's somewhere out there on Medium. So write about what you do, then speak at conferences. So in a conference like this, you can just apply for a talk, come and speak, even if it's building, based on what you've learned. Trust me, knowledge is a lot of things. If you go to a conference and then you go and give a talk and think, oh, this talk is very simple, you'll be shocked how much people actually get to learn from that talk. So ensure that you apply for conferences, attend meetups. I think PyCon has probably a monthly meetup, I don't know. So ensure that you attend meetups so that you can get to learn about the emerging trends. And of course, importantly, write articles, all provide feedback and comments to other articles out there. So that marks, I've tried to really go fast. That marks the end of my talk today. You need to reach me. I'm more active on Twitter, where we fight the government of Kenya. But you can also reach me on LinkedIn, and that is also my email.
Thank you very much. Are you up for collaboration with Uganda to fight our own?
I was very tempted to tweet when I was here, then I remembered.
Come on, we would use that actually.
Definitely, you can do that.
I've been thinking that we will need some Kenyan friends. Where are the Kenyan friends here?